back to my YouTube channel. If you haven't already, like, subscribe, hit the little notification for the bell so you get it. We're gonna go to the intro and then we're bringing back Inside Psych. Together, we can end the stigma of mental health. We can be the voices for those who are scared to speak up. Through this journey, I will be right by your side. I will be your biggest cheerleader. I'll be there on your worst days and your darkest nights. On the days that you feel like you can't push anymore. Keep pushing. We are Team Maddie. So today I always get asked like what you need to work at a psych hospital, but I wanted to take a different approach of like qualities you need to work at a psych hospital, because a lot of times people are so set on the degrees where they're like, oh, I have the degree, but hey, maybe I don't have like the personal traits it takes, because it does take a lot. So I kind of wanted to go over that and just show you, because I don't want to list out every single thing you need to be approved to work at a psych hospital, because every state has different regulations, every state has different certifications, different degrees, different levels, and then if you go high risk, low risk, PRTF, group home, every single place is different, so it wouldn't be fair for me to do it, especially just based on, you know, the two places I'm at. But I thought, what if I told you guys like what I feel like is super important for when you go like mentally wise, like when you work there. And I made a list of like qualities that I feel like would be very beneficial, because a lot of people who join, our turnover rate there is super high. Calling it as it is, our turnover rate is super high, and it's because people come in thinking they're going to save the world, not realizing that you're not there to save the world. You're there to be a friend. You're there to be a safe person. You're there to, these kids have gone through massive loads of trauma, and you're there to comfort them. So without that, you have to realize like there's different qualities and different personality traits. And I have friends that I look at them and I think about who they are and what they are, and I'm like, you would do okay there, but you wouldn't. And it's based on just like personality kind of too. The biggest thing is you have to be okay with kids screaming and kids crying. And even as an adult, it's really, really hard to do that. It's hard to take it in. It's hard to sit through it. It's hard to watch it. But you have to be okay with being that safe person while a kid is at the lowest, while they're in crisis, while they're not okay. Because you are going to be exposed to, you know, I don't know if it's secondhand trauma, but you're going to be exposed to what their trauma was. You're going to relive some of the trauma with them, because they're going to be in crisis explaining it. They're going to need you to sit down and listen to them. You have to be able to separate your emotions and theirs. You have to be able to go home at the end of the day and not take it with you, which is the hardest thing you could possibly do while working there. And I used to say it all the time, like when I would leave work, I'd be like, okay, I'm not bringing this home with me, because it is hard. You are the kid's safe person. You are there for them, and you are there to make sure that they are okay. But the crying, a lot of kids cry, and that's fine. And I encourage it. I'm like, cry it out, scream it out, like get it out, like feel those emotions. But you have to be okay with those kids doing it in front of you. You have to be okay with having a kid swing at you. There's a lot of people, and let me be the first to admit, when you have a teenager swing at you, yes, it does. It takes a while to be able to be like, breathe. Like, you can't fight them back. You'll go to jail. And you lose your job. So you have to be able to take the heat of the kids screaming and crying, but also throwing punches, and then being able to walk away once you get hit. And that is hard. And that's why we use code words called like tap out and stuff. It's like tap me out, get me out. And that means get me off the unit, because you're overwhelmed, you're stressed, you got hurt, you need an out. That's what that means. And you start to learn like different codes when you work there. And I've seen staff truly struggle where they get hit and they're like, they just walk out of the unit and they don't come back. Like they quit on the spot. And it's because not everyone's meant for this job, but when you are meant for it, you'll know. Another thing I think is really tough is you have to be okay with kids getting in your face screaming and cussing. And that's some things that some staff don't have. Think of it kind of like, not all of them, but sometimes you gotta think like these kids come from juvie, or these kids come from traumatic backgrounds where that's what happened to them, was they were screamed in the face. So you have to be able to figure out a way to calm them down and work with them while keeping yourself regulated, because you don't want to, you know, get the kid worse. You don't want to make them more angry. You don't want to get hurt. You don't want to put yourself or others at risk. So you really have to work hard on that. And a lot of people do walk away. Like, there's always, I can name about 5 people who have walked off their shift and quit because they can't take it. And I'll admit, sometimes I keep kinetic sand or like a stress ball in one of my scrub pockets, because while you're being yelled at or while you're being, you know, screamed at or being, you know, destroyed mentally, like, you need something to like distract you. And I use kinetic sand, but I also use a really good stress ball that has like it looks like shaving cream in the middle because it won't pop. But that's another thing. Another thing you have to be able to separate is sometimes there's people who just, I don't know how to say it, they don't agree with the kids' decisions in life, whether it's sexuality, name changes, pronouns. You gotta suck it the up, because you're not there to judge those kids. You are there to be their safe person. You are there to sit with them during their worst. You are not there to help make their life decisions, to help, you know, tell them that maybe that you don't agree with it, and that maybe by you telling them, hey, I don't agree with your pronouns, is going to snap them and be like, no, no, that's not your job. And I have defended someone, and I always say that if a staff, nurse, doesn't matter, who doesn't listen to you, ask for a grievance, ask for a variance, write for something, that way the staff knows, hey, XYZ is not respecting someone's pronouns. That's what you have to do. But you're not there to judge them. You're there to love and support them. And at the end of the day, 99% of them are. I can only think of one person in the 3+ years I've worked there that hasn't. But you have to stand up for them. But you have to encourage them. You have to, you know, say, I love that, or like just support them, because at the end of the day, these kids need support. They need love. They need trust. They need to be shown that like there are good people out in the world, because sometimes they aren't shown that outside of it. Another good thing is you have to be able to make good decisions, because these kids do mimic what we do. They mimic, you know, our attitudes. If you're giving a kid an attitude, they're going to give it right back. And 9 out of 10 times, they're going to give it back way stronger than what you gave it. So you have to be able to like regulate yourself and make sure that like you're calm, cool, and collected. You have your layout. Another thing is you need to be very schedule oriented. The worst thing on that unit is when I leave the unit for like a couple days and the kids have had no structure and it is a hot mess. And then the day I come back is the day I spend getting them back on schedule, back on track, back on like whatever, you know, they needed to be on, because the staff before them let them do whatever they want. And that's not what they're here for. It's not that they're here for like, oh, we're going to sit here and just like color and play and have fun and watch movies. No, we're here for groups. We're here to build on ourselves. We're here to get better, and we're here to like, you know, find ourselves. So if you're very schedule oriented, that works well too, because you do have to hold yourself accountable and be able to keep the schedule going. Charting's a whole nother thing. We are very responsible for charting. They read our charts. Treatment team reads our stuff. Doctors read them. Make sure you're taking good notes. If you're a person who just doesn't like to chart, you're a person who doesn't like going in depth on what happened, it's probably not the best job for you, because it is the medical field still, and you are held to certain expectations, because if something happens to that kid when they leave or while they're there under someone else's, you know, supervision, and you didn't document anything, it's on you. So you have to hold yourself accountable and be really good at documenting. I would say the next biggest thing is that you have to understand, like, you're going to get your heart ripped out. You are going to get so close to a kid, and you're going to be their safe person. And that kid's going to, you know, when they're upset, especially it happens with the pre-eds a lot, where you become their person. They're crying because they're homesick, they come to you. They're crying because they're having a bad day, they come to you. And then they're going to discharge, and you're never going to see that kid again. And it's tough, because you work so hard with the kid, and you get them to a good spot to discharge, and then you send them on their way praying and hoping that they make it, that they do well, that they don't come back. Because as much as you want to see them again, you don't want them to come back. Psych hospitals aren't for kids to stay in long term. You don't need them to come back. You want them to flourish and do better and get help. And that's probably the hardest part, is at the end of the day, you realize that you're putting your heart on the line, but you're doing it in a good way, because you're not going to see these kids again. You're not going to contact them after they leave, but you're going to hope and pray that they do really, really, really well. Another thing is I would say you have to be able to stand up for yourself. And that's something I learned at my hospital, is that if you don't stand up for yourself, you're going to get walked on, either by other employees or anyone. Like, stand up for yourself. If someone comes on and they're like, oh, we'll just color. No, we're doing the groups. The groups are assigned for a reason. We're going to do, you know, therapy. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. We're going to do it for a specific reason. Anyway, my camera's dying. I'm at 1%. It's like beeping red. I love you guys so much. Welcome back to Inside Psych. Once or twice a week, I'm back. I just need a mental break. I took 2.5 months off because, well, the breakup. But I love you guys.